494 people have received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, while 257,603 adults have received 2 doses of other vaccine types. Hence, 389,497 adults have completed their vaccination, and that translates to 26.5% of the target population. A total of 128 individuals have received 1 dose or component 1 of Sputnik, and 76 have received component 2 or the second dose of the same vaccine. Hence, a total of 204 doses of Sputnik has been administered. 13,426 children between the age 12 and 17 have received 1 dose of the Pfizer vaccine, representing 4.4% of the target population. And we know that the target population for children is 307,298. Of these, 5,198 are fully vaccinated. So, the cumulative number of people vaccinated with the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine for both adults and children is 460,283, of which 394,695 are fully vaccinated, translating to 22.2% of the target population. 44,662 people have received a COVID-19 vaccine booster dose. The summary of the national update as of yesterday is as follows. Cumulative number of confirmed cases, including reinfections, is 159,868, while 155,639 people have recovered. That is giving us a recovery rate of 97.4%. Currently, we have 195 active cases. The cumulative COVID-19 vaccine first dose is 460,283, while 262,801 are the number of people who have been cumulatively vaccinated with a second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. So the cumulative number of the people who have completed their COVID-19 vaccine is now 394,695. Since we recorded our first cases of COVID-19, people who have died from COVID-19 deaths are 3,690, and 330 people have succumbed to COVID-19 related deaths. That is giving us a total number of deaths standing now at 4,020. Total samples tested, 986,535. Active contacts are 64. The cumulative number of people who have been quarantined is 89,998, while 89,862 people have been discharged from quarantine facilities. So currently we have 136 people in quarantine facilities. That is the end of the update for today, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Munyangwe, for that update. And I must say it is sad that after such
represent us on the world stage.
Okay. Ms. Rebecca, for the past years, netball seemed to be doing well. Mr. Chayenda also alluded to that. Compared to many fraternities in Namibia, how were you managing it to be on good standard?
What we try to do is generally you should have a strategic plan in place in order for you to achieve a certain goal. And our priority was and is still that we want to reach the stages of the World Cup. And because of that, we had ample time to set up our strategic plan. And what we did was, first of all, we needed to start at netball at grassroots level, sort of a development aspect we needed to bring in. And then we also needed to aggressively approach various institutions like companies to get sponsorship to realize our dreams. And back then in 2014, when some of us took over the boardship of Netball Namibia, they call it we are off the table in terms of ranking in netball. We did not feature anyway. So we had to get back to the ranking table. So in 2014, we went to Uganda. There was an African Championships where we only had 9 players and 2 officials, including me as a team manager. And then we got back on the table. And so meaning that when you're on the table of the world, you need to start playing competitive. So we did that, and we went to Debmarin, Namibia, and then we requested for sponsorship. And then they gladly supported us. That's why we are here where we are. And then also not only the national team did we try to take care of, we want to also have games played all over in Namibia through a Premiership League where we got MTC on board. So basically because of those interventions, that's where netball is where it is today. Still not enough, we need to do more.
Okay. Mr. Haynes, rugby is one of those fraternities that are being alluded to as doing quite well. And we would like to understand, what can you ascribe the success to so that maybe other codes that are also struggling a little bit can learn from it?
Well, once again, thank you for the opportunity. I just think it's like my colleague said earlier, is that it contributes to your strategic plan if you can align and assess what went well and you implement. Because I'm going to speak now with the coach's head on. If a coach understands that a certain plans has been put in place, then he or she can execute. It just boils down to proper planning.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's that cliche funding, and that's always been a challenge. But I must say that most of the sports, nothing has changed, and I don't want to be negative, but it will always remain a challenge. And I commend sport coaches that has been putting in the hard work and the extra mile, and that's going to be our responsibility to make sure that we prepare our athletes, not just on the field, but at administration level.
Okay.
And that's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Okay. It's sports, and I think I'll be amiss if I say the viewers are not allowed to join in, because sports is everybody's favorite something. Whether it's football. So please, you are welcome to call us in and give us your comments. If you have any questions, you're allowed to pose those questions to the panelists as well. The call-in number is 061 400 397. 061 is the area code, 400 397. You can also find us on our Facebook pages, and that is Ministry of Information, Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. You can find us on YouTube as well. Our handle there is MICT Namibia. MICT Namibia. Continuing with the session here in the studio while we wait for you to contact us. Mr. Chayenda, except for Frankie Fredericks, we have not really thereafter produced world athletes for a long period, and then suddenly we had the likes of Boma and Maselingi on the world stage. Don't you think the problem lies with the institutions and not necessarily lack of talent in the country?
Thank you very much. I would tend to disagree that we have not produced much. Yes, there were, Frankie Fredericks was the trendsetter here. But I earlier on mentioned the likes of Harry Simon coming in, Johanna Benson, Shikongo winning there. We have the likes of Jacques Berger, who have played professional rugby at the highest level. Many others, hockey representing us at the highest level. I think probably we need to understand and define what is an athlete probably. For us, we take an athlete as a person who is involved in professional sports and who is able to get involved into physical activities on sport. So this is where we should start and say, how do we measure ourselves in terms of the performance of the athletes in this country? I think we have had very good progress in terms of our performance as a country. Yes, of course, after independence here, there was some 4 years, there was not some good performance. But we've also seen our athletes going amidst all the challenges, the financing that my colleagues have alluded to here, the funding. And we must say, we really, in as much as it's not enough, we thank corporate Namibia that have really come on board to our aid and to aid our federations. So yes, there's quite a lot of, and still a lot can still be done to ensure that we have more athletes representing our country and performing on the world stage. Like I alluded to earlier, in order to nurture an athlete and talent, of course there's talent out there. And this is why we have what we call the national federations. A national federation cannot be based only in Windhoek. You want to see that the federations are out there, represented in all the 14 regions of our country. And we are thankful, especially in terms of what government have done. And we can say we are proud because we have started to categorize sporting codes. We have the 3 national codes, which is football, netball, and rugby. And you can see, in terms of the performance, in as much, you have seen that Namibian football, we have been represented at the AFCON, maybe 4 or 5 times so far. So I think we have done pretty well, good. We can still do more with all of us pulling together. It cannot only be government. It takes also the private sector investment into the athletes and also the athlete themselves. In as much as you are an athlete with the talent, there's a need for discipline also. And that is what we teach in sport. Discipline from the athletes, the will to win. It took, for example, I want to cite one of the well-known athletes from Jamaica, Shalene Ann Fraser. Yeah. It took her the first time, she came number 7. 7, she went for the second time, she came 5th. She went for the third time, she came number 3. And only on the 4th time did she come number 1. So it takes the talent, but the talent must also be nurtured. And it also takes the willpower, the heart. The heart must also be willing to say, what is it that I want to achieve as an athlete? So you must also have a drive, self-drive within yourself to make sure that I want to achieve. In as much as they can push you as an athlete to go and represent the country, you may have a false start on the Olympic or the Commonwealth Games. So it takes, and this is what is important, especially with grassroots development. You would only see Mboma performing well at the highest level. Most of the people, they only came to know Mboma when she went to the Olympics. But we were already busy together with the Federation Athletics Namibia. They were scouted first by at grassroots level, at school level. They came into the National Youth Games, which is one of the projects of the Sports Commission. From there, they were now given over to Coach Henk Botha. Then they started going into a local regional competition in South Africa. They went through the African Cup, African continental competition until up to the Olympics. I can tell you, just to take the team to the Olympics, government spent over 2.9 million to send this team of less than 9 people to the Olympics. So there's investment that have to be done into the athletes. Maybe let me give it to my colleagues.
Okay, okay. Ms. Kochassis, What have been the challenges in regards to netball, if there has ever been challenges?
No, there are challenges, and mainly it's funding, cost, and also maybe perseverance from athletes, netballers, because currently our players or netballers are discouraged because we are not, we don't get any incentives for our netballers, unlike my colleague here on my left, rugby, and those who are in absence, the football. We don't really get anything from anything. Currently, MTC is really trying to give an allowance to our players. We are very grateful for that. So funding is the main challenge. If I can maybe abstract it a bit, we are in the process of preparing our national team, the players, for to participate at the World Championships, which we will call the Africa Qualifiers, which will be in South Africa in August, from the 20th to 27th of August in Pretoria. Now, in order to prepare athletes, you need to, in our view, with the little resources we have, we would want to have them together camping and then maybe have a week-long camping session. We don't get that opportunity because we don't get funding. It would have been great if we could get assistance from the government. We also know that they are overburdened. We also are very much aware of the fact that you cannot compare what was happening in 1990 to today, because those years sports, the sports were less, and then the government, what do you call it, not opportunities per se, but their target were not really on sports. There were less responsibilities to take on. Now it's more. But if as a sports code, if we can get a little bit of funding every month from the Sports Commission through the government, it will help a lot, because we would want to qualify for the World Championships. August is around the corner. You need to prepare athletes. We're talking, my colleagues were talking about preparation. Preparation is key. So those are one of the major challenges we have in netball, which is funding.
Okay.
If I can just come in
Yes.
while she's talking about the funding, just to clear the air. Normally, there's a perception that government is not properly giving money, and people need to understand it's not only about giving the money. There are many other services that we provide, as from especially the Sports Commission. We are elected by Act of Parliament, which is Act 12 of 2003. Now, among our functions is to ensure that we ensure proper administration of sporting courts and regulating body as a regulatory body of sport. Now, some of the services that we assist with our federation, and people need to understand, there are some specific games. Some games are mandatory. You will find that mandatory games, like for example the Olympics, those are a priority to us. Hence, there was even a prioritization in terms of the sporting courts. So you'll find Commonwealth Games. Those are games that are funded, fully funded by government. Of course, corporate Namibia can always come on board. The Region 5 Youth Games, for example, those are government-funded games. Just last year, we sent a team to Lesotho to go and participate in the Region 5 Youth Games. We spent close to 4.5 million. This is money that comes from government. So it's part of the development. So it's not necessary. Many other services that we provide to our federations and national umbrella bodies. For example, transport. Just to bring the federations, and this is what we assist our federations, they are here, they can attest to that, for them to come together when it's national events or national trials. We provide them transport to come from the regions. At times we even go as further as assisting them in terms of flights, international flights, for them to go and represent our country outside. So we are doing that much, but obviously government have priorities as well. We are in a difficult situation where we are faced by drought. We are just coming out of COVID-19. Now we are still in COVID-19. So you can see those are some of the priorities, and we really understand. So what we normally would encourage is that our federations need to come with innovation. The Sports Act, under Section 17, it gives an opportunity for us to come with a sports development fund. As we speak now, the Sports Act or the sports bill is being revised. People are working behind closed door. We are looking forward to the finalization of the sports bill to become into a new law where we are revised since 2003. Obviously, with that, we want to see where a sport development Development Fund will come into existence and make sure that our sporting courts can get enough funding.
Okay. Mr. Haynes, we haven't forgotten about you. Professional sports, well-paid job. The likes of Mohamed Salah, the twins, the William twin sisters, and the Ronaldos of the world are high-income earners. What have we done as a country to change the mindsets of our youth that it is not only about the physical fitness, but there is wealth accumulation in sports?
Well, there is what we call it a pathway. If you identify and follow a pathway for a young learner, let's say we start from grassroots level. And just to think to mind what my colleagues earlier mentioned is that for athlete to develop, it's not just yes, we were talking about the funding at the professional side of the sport. So if you can start at a young age, where athletes get a chance to develop, because it takes about between 10 to I would say up until 11 years for an athlete to develop, because at the age of 18, 19, that athlete should be able to compete at the highest level. And talking from the rugby fraternity, and I'm also going to bring cricket into the picture, is that athletes now already understand at the age of 13 that the national player went through the pathway of the athlete's pathway. And that is at each age group you create a culture, because it's not just the developing of the athlete, it's also the culture. If you create that culture and start it at a young age, that athletes understand that not that we are looking for funds, we're looking for all of this, but we're looking at an athlete that can compete at a higher level. And that then at the age of under 19 or under 20 in the case of rugby, that athlete then understands the next step to professionalism, playing at a higher level. So if you put in that the necessary steps, and then that athlete can understand, let's say if funds are available, I'm talking from a different perspective, and so it all depends on what you put in place and what you can put in place, because if you can't see it, what can you follow?
Exactly.
That is ultimately where, and that is to all sport federations, is that our media plays a, I know it's not part of the question, but I've seen this over the last weekend when the rugby season started, that the athletes, the involvement, the following, that plays a vital role. So if you can't create a visible platform for athletes to see what is the next steps, what follow next, then that trying to install that professionalism end story, it almost means nothing. So yes, work hard, and obviously after working hard, there is a reward.
That is a good one. I like the way you put that one. Work hard, there is a reward at the end of it. We would like to remind our viewers that you're welcome to the show. You can add your voice to the discussion. You can do so by calling in. Our area code is 061. The number is 400397. Area code 061. The number is 400397. You can also contact us through our social media platforms. On Facebook, it is Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia, Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia, and on YouTube, our handle there is MICT Namibia, MICT Namibia. That's our YouTube handle. Getting back to our panelists here in the studio, Mr. Chaenda, the private sector plays a pivotal role in promoting sports through sponsorships. Are you satisfied with the current involvement of the private sector in sponsoring sports? As an example, they only came in after Boma and Maselingi were already performing. What guidelines has the Commission put in place to compel sponsorships to discover and nurture talent?
Thank you very much. As we speak now, we have what we call, and my colleagues alluded to strategic plans. So it is one of those things that we want to encourage our federation to follow.
Yeah.
We have what we call the Namibia Sports Commission Strategic Plan 2018-2022. We'll be revising that to make sure that it's we now go forward with a new strategic plan, of course, with the next 5 years. It's an important, corporate sponsorship is pivotal in terms of sport development in this country. Of course, it's not enough at this stage. There are some corporates. What is painful is that we continue to see the same corporates on a daily basis. We know it's the MTC. We know it's the Nampower. We know it's Namibia Breweries, FNB, Bank Windhoek, you name it, a few of those corporates that are involved. And they only, these are the corporates that are, we now look at as traditional sponsors of sport. And you rightly put it there. It was so painful to realize that some corporates only come on board to talk about, when they see the accolades of Mboma winning this a silver medal at the Olympic Games. And we want to discourage that. That's not the way to go. We should not only come when we see results. These results, some people or some corporate have invested in it. We have seen the value, and you talked about professionalizing sport and how it can create jobs. Before Mboma went outside this country, some of the corporates like MTC invested already 2.5 million in the athletes. That 2.5 million translates in job creation, one way or another. Because obviously, in order for Mboma to participate there, she has families that are in the regions. Obviously, these people, one way or another, they benefit through their, other benefits, spill-off benefits after that are caused by the investment into sponsorship. So we really want to appeal and want to request corporate Namibia not to only come on board. And we were seeing, of course, ambush marketing, some of the corporate assisting, it was very painful to see some of the high corporates in this country, even, confusing Mboma to a non-Namibian. But these are multinational companies, and that tells you we need, that should come to stop. We cannot only come on board when we have seen the results. There are some people who are working behind those to make sure these athletes are nurtured, they go up to that level. And I said again, government is doing, but government can't do it alone. So corporates come on board, assist the national, take a federation, take one federation. If you cannot invest in every, we understand, but take at least one federation. Here is Netball, and I must thank the leadership of Netball Namibia. We had a crisis with Netball for 5 years ago. When this executive came in, they were able, today we can be proud that through, and again I want to refer, the same corporates, only the MTCs come on to ensure that they now have a league. Now at least women are able to have their league of their own. So we really want to thank those who are coming on board as well.
Mr. Kosis, Mr. Chanda, they're referring to some of the ways, should I say netball was resurrected in a way?
In a way, yes.
Yeah. Sports cannot survive without funds. Who has been sponsoring and supporting netball?
Before I respond to that question, I'll just to echo what my colleague has just said. Corporates tend to come on board after you achieve. I was just mentioning that we are in the process of trying to qualify for the World Championships, biggest showpiece in the world, and it's going to be held in Africa, in South Africa, just close door. And we would want to prepare our team, take us on board, hold our hands, just like he was saying. In fact, he took my thought out because I wanted to say in terms of funding and if each corporate can take a sports code and hold it. You see, a perfect example is the Premiership, the MTC Premiership. We have a club from Grootfontein. MTC cannot do everything alone, just like the government. But if you have one club which is representing you in Grootfontein, playing in the limelight of the league, and you don't even sponsor them food parcels to travel with, and how many companies are there in Grootfontein? And it's only Grootfontein Netball Club, for argument's sake, who are representing the half of the region. You see, those are really things the corporate world needs to look at. The other question was?
No, we wanted to know netball in general. Who has been supporting and funding
We have been supported. You know, when we went to Singapore in 2018, when we won the M1 Nations Cup, it is very imperative for a sports coach, especially when you're in a group, to participate internationally, because you gain experience, you gain exposure. You can also have scouts around, and then one or two people can then have interest in your players. So the M1 Nations Cup were mainly sponsored by Deb Marine, and then also the government came on board.
Okay.
And currently Deb Marine is also, I'm talking out of my space. Deb Marine will take us on board to the netball qualifiers. And then MTC, who really is now doing great things with the netball premiership, because netball is played all over the country. We started the first rounds in Windhoek. We went to Grootfontein. Last weekend we had games in Walvis Bay and Oshakati respectively.
Okay.
So it just says that the netball, the women are playing the sports.
Yeah.
And we cannot overemphasize the support of the corporate world. We cannot overemphasize that. We will still knock on their doors. They will see my name and their email. Please open the emails and read and call me in for a presentation.
Yeah.
Maybe if I can just come there.
Yes.
Because this is an area where that is very close to my heart, especially when it comes to corporate sponsorship. What we also encourage our federations, we should be able to offer something to the corporates. So it's not just about going there and say, let's write a letter to these guys and drop a letter. Offer them something. What is it that what we call ROI, return on investment. They want to see what is it that they are going to have. Are they taking you as a brand together with you as they go and represent the country at the Africa level? So they want to see visibility. What is it that I get as a sponsor when I put money into you? So that is very key. You cannot just expect them to come on board. And the other point that I want to emphasize is the squabbles in the boardrooms. We need to create a culture and a conducive environment whereby our executives, the executive organs within sports fraternity, should take their personal egos aside.
Yeah.
Let's leave those ones. If you are not ready as a leader, don't come in sport.
Yeah.
Because this is also taking out. You have seen federations whereby they don't perform the whole year. They are busy with infightings. How do you expect the corporates to come and invest in sport? They won't invest in you because their brand, obviously, some of these corporates are listed on the stock exchange. So you don't want to, obviously, if there's a damaging story that's aligned, you can hear that they are called the MTC Namibia Premier League. So if there's any squabbles and infightings at netball, it affects the brand of MTC. It affects those brands that are involved in sponsoring sport. So obviously, we as national leaders in sport have an obligation to make sure that we need to account. When the money is spent into sport, we need to also give back and see what is it that how have we utilized that money? Accountability comes in as well.
Well put. Mr. Haynes, South African company branches in Namibia are not sponsoring at par with their mother companies in South Africa. What has South Africa done, which Namibia has not done, to have adequate sponsorships here?
Well, I'm going to dare to answer that question holistically.
Yeah.
I just think when it comes to, my colleagues, especially Mr. Saida, mentioned that your return of investment as a company, how do you measure, if you look at the media platform, Namibia compared to South Africa, you've got your multi-choice, your DSTV, and if I have to work on the scale, you've got, it's like day and night the difference between Namibia and South Africa. I think that poses the biggest challenge. So obviously your return of investment, how do you measure it? How do you come up with a presentation that attracts that specific sponsor and say, but this is do we know the sponsor specific audience? Do we know the specific company's, corporate company's identity? So that falls back on the sport federation to make that, to do the homework, to find out. And so I'm not going to put it and say what is the problem, what is the mistakes, but there is something that we can learn. How can we, in Namibia, change that whole perception on we can't just write the letter anymore because that is not good enough. And back in the day, you would have gone to a sponsor and say, I want to do this, then the sponsors are quite reluctant to get on board. But now it's a different situation. I've got this program, or we have this program running. And once that connects to their identity and to their audience, they will come on board, given that the organization is in good state. That poses the biggest challenge. And I mentioned something earlier, social media. That is the leading platform for sports federations to tap into. And I mentioned something earlier, that just last weekend, I posted or boosted a post on Facebook. And you won't believe it, between Friday 4 p.m. and Sunday 22:33, there was well over 5,000 involvement. Facebook is a wonderful tool that can support. And then if I say audience, organization wants to know which age group gets involved, which gender gets involved. So I'm giving you an answer, hopefully a solution, how federations can tap into using what is available instead of what is not available.
Yeah.
What is successful in South Africa will not be successful in Namibia. So in my terms, focus on the positive, focus on what needs to be done to take our sport to the next level, and not spend a lot of time tapping or wondering about the problem that's existing.
Okay. Well stated there. I think we have an idea of what it is that where we are at as a country, if I can roughly put it that way, what it is that we need to try and collectively do to take ourselves forward, and also the fact that what Mr. Haynes said earlier on, work hard. There is a reward at the end of it. I think those are the key things that one picks up from this particular discussion this afternoon. With that said, we've come to the end of our show for the afternoon. I'd like to thank you for joining us and listening to our discussion. I'd like to thank our panelists for availing themselves to help us kind of tap in and get an idea of our sports in our country. From myself, Shianwa Desire Kahiha, along with my production crew. Bye-bye.